Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 26 of
Total Football Talk Extra.
I am your host, Drew Willingham, and we are back for another great edition, episode 26, and I am joined by our great special guest co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ryan McCarthy.
What's happening, folks? Glad to be here back on the extra edition of Total Football Talk.
We are finally back, yes, sir, with Extra. It's been 6 long months without the Extra, but we are back for episode 26 of that. We're going to have a great time. We're going to talk about Thursday night football in the NFL, Friday night football in Brazil for the NFL, and recap the Week 13 in CFL action, along with last night's Friday night game here on this show known as Extra. The hair's flowing. Doing it for the two of us because Ryan can't, but I'm doing it for both of us because the hair's flowing on this day. We got a running back we're going to talk about in the grand champ of the week who has a longer set of hair than the hair I got over there. But with all that being said, the hype is here. You know this show is brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
And no credentials required.
Yes, and no credentials required. And we're going to overcome that struggle by taking on into the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Ready.
Here at the opening drive, Ryan, we have an interesting week of football to recap. You know, we're at the midway point for Canadian football. We're at the beginning for the NFL, and we're definitely going to talk a bunch of NFL here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and get the CFL Week 13 out of the way, and let's start it out with a little bit of foosball action from this past Sunday night. We're going to talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders as my Rough Riders come away with another victory on this day. 34-30 was your final score. Trevor Harris, 17-27, 219 passing yards and a touchdown, along with A.J. Oletz, 18 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown. Mario Anderson added 3 carries for 34 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, along with Tommy Nields, 3 receptions for 86 yards and a receiving touchdown. Dante Myers had 3 receptions for 52 yards, along with the Rough Riders defense having 5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception by Tavon Campbell. The Rough Riders had total penalties tallying 6 for 110 yards. The most in Week 13 for any penalty yards went to the team that actually won this contest. Zach Collaros, 26-37 for 326 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, an interception. Did have 1 carry for 2 yards to get on the board, but, you know, not everybody can get the numbers they want when they run once or twice. Brady Oliveira, 5 carries for 24 rushing yards and a touchdown, along with 5 receptions for 30 receiving yards. Nick Dembski added 7 receptions for 89 receiving yards and a touchdown, along with Kevin's Clarkius. I probably butchered that name, but I tried my best. Had 4 receptions for 85 receiving yards. The Blue Bombers' total penalties tallied up to 8 for 70 yards on the day. Ryan, looking back at this, what are your overall thoughts when seeing this game right here with the win by the Rough Riders?
Man, the CFL is fun. So fun to watch. I don't care what team you love, but man, this league is so much fun to watch because that's the biggest reason. No lead is safe. No lead is safe in this game, in the Monday game, early Monday game. I'm not going to talk about the late Monday game. That was just a mollywhopping. But this game, Saskatchewan was up, I think 31 at one point, 31-17. They had 2-score lead. Had 2-score lead in the early in the fourth quarter, and Winnipeg just came back. They scored in their final 2 possessions. They get a touchdown late in the game. They go for 2, and Roland Milligan, I think it was Roland Milligan, who took the 2-point conversion and ran it back all the way for 2 points of Saskatchewan's. That's why you see the score is 34-30. It would have been 32-30, or even 32-32. I mean, we could have gone to overtime in this game and had ourselves a nice little shootout to end the game. But this was all the way up until about midway through the fourth quarter. This was Saskatchewan's game. They did a great job. Containing Brady Oliveira. We talked about a couple weeks ago how I thought Winnipeg bully ball was back based on Brady Oliveira's incredible performance, which I should have given him the grand champ of the week last week. I've totally forgot his game against Montreal. We had over 200 all-purpose yards. And they gave it to somebody else, and I feel bad for it because Brady Oliveira deserved it. But in this game, Brady Oliveira was contained. That run defense by the Saskatchewan Roughriders is really good. Is really good, and they held Oliveira to 24 yards, which means that Blue Bombers had to go to the passing game, and Kolaris is throwing it all over, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, this was an important game for both teams, Winnipeg especially, because they needed to keep track, they need to keep pace in the West to try to finish at least second for a home game in the West semifinal. But unfortunately, that was a setback for them. And Saskatchewan goes to 9-2. They still lead the division, but Calgary's right behind them. So, great job by Saskatchewan holding, but they have to find a way to not let leads slip away. And they almost did it in this game because Zach Collaros, we talked about how one player can make a difference on the offensive side of the ball, especially at quarterback. And Zach Collaros, definitely a difference maker. Definitely a difference maker with 3 passing touchdowns. Had that 1 interception to Tavon Campbell, and then that ultimately would have been basically the nail in the coffin. That 2-point conversion that failed, that taken back the other direction for a 2-point score of their own for Saskatchewan. So on the offensive side of the ball for Saskatchewan, gotta give them credit. I mean, the Rough Riders defense did well. 5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, an interception, but they almost let the game slip away. Offensively, they did just enough. Mario Anderson had 2 touchdowns. AJ Ouellette had a touchdown. Tommy Neild, touchdown. Trevor Harris, efficient, although 17-27. Nothing really home to write about. I mean, it was an inefficient game in that regard, but still got the job done. And they traveled to Winnipeg today for the Banjo Bowl, which is literally actually be kicking off as we go on. But this game was a nail biter. It's a thriller. This is why I love the CFL. No lead is safe, and it's gonna a lot of times it's gonna come down to the last score, and it did in this game.
It absolutely did. And when you have a quarterback that, when you have a quarterback for the Rough Riders who barely throws over 200 yards and just a touchdown, and your running game literally carries you to the victory because their offensive line, we say what we want about the defense, but the offensive line at points throughout the season, especially through some decent contests, has stepped up to give these running backs holes, primarily AJ Ouellette, because this is the first time we're really seeing Mario Anderson come out with a couple touchdowns and make a big contribution for the Rough Riders. But Ouellette's had some pretty nice gaps to run through this season. I mean, they've set him up pretty well. And yes, the Blue Bombers have kind of had a roller coaster of a season to an extent. They're 6-5 right now. They're just a game over 500. And they're playing against a tough team in the Rough Riders. But they at least made it interesting towards the end. Like you said, they were up by a couple scores. The Rough Riders were a little bit, but I mean, to make it to where it was only a 4-point game towards the end, they got fight, but they're waiting a little bit too late in the season to really start turning things around. With being 1 game over 500, it's literally do or die every single week between now and the playoffs for the Grey Cup.
Yep, absolutely. And you got to you got to keep your foot on the neck of your opponent. You can't get away with just sailing into the fourth quarter with a substantial lead, because the other team are going to come back, is going to bite you in the butt, and almost happened in this game. So you got a few weeks left in the season. Early November's coming. That's playoff time. That's crunch time. And you learn your lesson now, the better off you'll be come playoff time.
Absolutely. And before we go on to our next game, we got a few comments here in the chat we need to acknowledge from our guy Sick Diggy, as he says, strap on those chin straps, lace up those cleats, and let's get ready to get Smash Mouth up in here. Extra wild, extra rough, and extra football, says Sick Diggy, coming in here with the fire.
What?
I said with the fire. Was that a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
You know it, and I know it. That is not a surprise, as we're having some fun here on Extra. He also says, good hostess, good ho-hos, good ding-dongs, and good Twinkies to one and all.
Hey, who are you calling a ho-ho and a ding-dong?
Elaborate out here in the chat, Sick. I was really about to say this.
I know what they are. I know what they all are. They're hostess. They're all hostess brand desserts or snacks.
But no one's Sick.
Ho-hos, ding-dongs, Twinkies, cupcakes. Fire.
But knowing Sick, this is a little bit beyond just snacks. Okay, there's got to be more to it. So elaborate out here in the chat, Sick. What in the expletive did you mean by all these good candies? Oh, all these good sweets. And to the folks in Canada, happy Tim Hortons. I want to try Tim Hortons, man.
Timbits, man. Timbits are awesome. Timbits are great. I love Tim Hortons. I need to get me a Tim Hortons sometime. If I go out to the nearest one near me is Syracuse. That's about 2.5, 3 hours.
There's one in the States.
2-hour drive. Oh yeah, Tim Hortons is Tim Hortons in the United States.
I thought it was US Canada because he was a hockey player.
No, there's a U.S. headquarters in Columbus, Ohio, and they got Tim Hortons everywhere. They even got Tim Hortons in Atlanta. And I was in Atlanta in April, and I didn't realize that until a few weeks later. Like, yeah, got me some Tim Hortons.
He says he's just being a foodie. Well, okay, that's understandable. Okay. It is Saturday out here. It's Saturday evening where you're at. It's Saturday afternoon where we're at here on the East Coast. Our guy, Corey Mann, my man with two N's, is in the house. Go back, you guys, to check out episode 123 of the In-Or-Out Sports Debate from Monday, a special Labor Day edition. It is the last episode until October 5th. As the memorial video project I'm working on, it's going to be awesome. But it's
I got a question for Mr. Mann. Does he recognize this reference?
Although I can't indulge in certain snacks due to my dietary restrictions, he says. So yes, he was being a foodie with that. And to Ryan McCarthy's point, when you're at halftime and one either says stay sharp or one gets sloppy.
It's a lot of ways I can go to get sloppy, Sick. But this is a family show. It
is. I'm trying my best to not be sloppy, as I have been slopped all around over the past couple of days, but it is all good. We're here, and this is my fun for the week with my man, Ryan McCarthy, on Total Football Talk.
Total Football Talk Extra.
All right, you got the double Total Football Talks, but we'll give you the extra over here. With that being said, we'll get back to the comments here shortly. Keep them coming, but we're going to go ahead and take it on into our next game that we have to cover. There were 2 Monday games for the CFL this week, and we're going to take it into that coverage right here and now. And we're going to start it off with the early game. It was the 2:30 p.m. game on Monday, and this was between the Toronto Argonauts and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And the Tiger Kitties gave up a decent fight towards the end. I wouldn't say give up a decent fight for the end. I misspoke. Let me say this. They had a lead. Okay. They had a lead, Ryan. And I cannot wait to hear your take at this point and another point in a show. Spoiler alert, but I'm not going to say what it is. But those of you who watch the program, you're going to exactly know what I'm talking about. But right here and now, this 2:30 p.m. contest between the Argonauts and the Tiger Cats. Brian, Argonauts win this game 35-33 over the Tiger Cats. Nick Arbuckle, 33 of 40, 352 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, along with 3 carries for 7 yards on the day, showing why I had a good pick for him as the grand champ of the week last week. And these numbers qualify him again. Spencer Brown, 10 carries for 90 yards on the day, rushing-wise, along with 9 receptions for 64 receiving yards, totaling 154 all-purpose yards. Jake Herslow, 6 receptions for 67 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, along with Mekhi Polk's 6 receptions for 64 yards and a receiving touchdown, round out the receiving corps. The Argos defense had 1 sack and 1 interception by Tavares McFadden. And our guy got on the board again, perfect with the field goal action. Liram shows up 4 of 4 on the day, 15 total points, tallying up literally almost half of what his team put up for the day. Liram was huge with the leg. Bo Levi Mitchell on the other team, he's been falling short of the past few weeks. 27 of 37 for 405 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns, along with an interception, which is why he fell short yet again. Greg Bell had 7 carries for 24 rushing yards, along with 5 receptions for 39 receiving yards. And your guy, Kenny the King Lawler, 9 receptions for 123 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. He was the king of the losing team, but the king nonetheless. Keandre Smith, 7 receptions for 171 receiving yards, but could not find the end zone. Along with the Tiger Cats defense adding 4 sacks with 2 fumble recoveries, and the entire offense having 6 penalties for 69 yards on the day. When you look at this game, I tried not to give away too much when we started talking about it. What are your overall thoughts? Well, bring the fire. Let us know how bad the Tiger Kitties let you down.
This was another reason why I love the CFL, because no lead is safe. Not even in the last minute or two of the game. What a wild game this was. Again, another 2-score lead Hamilton had against Toronto, and they let this one slip away. You thought the game was going to be over when Bo Levi led the Tiger Cats on a game-scoring drive, and that one throw to Kenny the King Lawler. That gave him the lead with well under almost 30 seconds left in the game. And you figured, all right, this game's over. Let's start to go home. Let's go to the car, kids. Let's go to the car, honey. It's time to go. But no, no. What we got was probably one of the best endings to a CFL game I've seen in quite a long time, because Nick Arbuckle slinging the rock, slinging that ball down the field. He finds himself, and he was covered pretty well. Dejon Brissett, who we didn't mention in the stats, 3 receptions, 86 yards of his own, but his longest reception was 62 yards, and he almost took it to the end zone. He stepped out at the 4-yard line as the clock expired, but we saw the replay, went to the command center. There was still 1 second left. Figured the game was over. He scores, game over. Nope, we go to the review, steps out the 4-yard line, 1 second remaining, and that enabled Liam Hairolahu to score that kick that game-winning field goal. But man, another nail biter. This is why I love the Labor Day games on in the CFL, because again, with the exception of one game, these games always come down to the final minutes. Always come down to the final minutes. This game, no exception, coming down to the final minutes, because in that sequence we had the lead change. I mean, we had the lead change 3-4 times in the last minute. In the last between Toronto scoring the touchdown, coming back from 17. We had Bo Levi leading the Tiger Cats down the field for a touchdown, which seemed to be the game-winning score. And then we had that long toss and catch from Arbuckle to Brissett, and Brissett runs the league almost the entire half of the field, winds up at the 4-yard line, and then we get the game-winning field goal to end it, to walk off. And this was a game that the Tiger Cats could have kept their foot on the gas in terms of the division, because right now, and during that game they were 6-4 with 12 points. They had a lead. They had the division lead, and let this game slip away, and they could have kept their grip on that division lead, because Montreal's not as good as they were. They're getting healthy, but they're getting healthy at the right time. But there's still some issues there. Toronto, slow start, an extra slow start, and Ottawa is who Ottawa is. So this game, again, if you're not watching the CFL during Labor Day weekend, you're missing out, because again, we're having some nail biters of games. This one was no exception, and this went down to the wire. And I'm happy I got the chance to tune in and watch this game, because this was fun. This was absolutely fun.
Most certainly was. And, the Tiger Kitties, they let us down.
Mm-hmm.
Let us down. Because the Argonauts, they had the type of win that they had last week. We were on here with Total Football Talk episode 99 before the NFL came back, which switched us back to Xtra. But this game right here, they let me down, because when you have stats like that by Kenny Fuller, you have to get it together and make sure you win this game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did that flow well with the yoke?
Yes, it did.
Nice! Yes! Yes, even though I'm tired today, still making it happen. To all of you out there who are showing up in the live chat right now. Welcome to the program. Speaking of them, let's say what's up to them real quick before we go to our next game. When one is leading at halftime, he says.
He had a typing error. So he meant to say, when you lead when you're up at halftime, you have to stay sharp. One of the other stay sharp or get sloppy. So he had a typing error. Yeah, that's what he's coming down to.
He did well. He corrected it himself.
Yeah.
I did a horrible job at helping him correct himself. But I will give myself the honorary Snowflake of the Week for that one. Now, my guy, Mr. Man2N, says, there are many interpretations of that hand sign, Ryan. I'd be here all day making references.
But
the fire.
But the reference I'm getting to is one of the best worst films of the 1980s, No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan.
Oh, God, it was Zeus.
Rip him!
Yes, you beat me right there. I was about to say, rip him.
And I'm surprised, Mr. Man, as a hardcore wrestling fan, you didn't get that reference. Shame.
Who'll let you know here in a second. Sick was good. We're back in the fourth with the It's 2012 all over again. It's the return of the crazy chick era and skipping to the ring. AJ Lee returned last night. Did you see that?
I watched the highlights this morning.
Nice. So you know what I'm talking about. She's got some nice abs she's been working with in her time that she has been away. So
she got an 8-pack, man. It's not a 6-pack. That's an 8-pack.
I'm looking forward to this right here. I mean, this has been in the cards for quite some time, and they've made us wait just the perfect amount of time for, at least storyline wise, to set this up. So, and he says, "Rest in peace, Thomas Tiny Lister, aka Zeus." As we have been going back and forth with the No Holds Barred being trash.
Corey, I encourage you to go to the No Credentials Required channel. We did a review of that movie this summer, and
they did.
We let him have it. We let that movie have it, especially my co-host Dustin, who had never seen it, or had seen it but hadn't seen it in quite a while. And man, it was a trip.
It absolutely was. Speaking of the trip that was, we got to take it to a game that was not as exciting as the last two that we discussed, but it still happened on Monday. Let's go ahead and take it to that game right there. And the game that we're talking about is this. Between the Edmonton Elks and the Calgary Stampeders, this game was an absolute... You know it, and I know it. To all of you out there who watched it, and even if you didn't, we're going to catch you up right now because this was absolutely redonkulous of a display of a game by the Edmonton Elks going against the Calgary Stampeders Monday at 6:30 on Labor Day. And with this game, Vernon Adams Jr. only put up 13 completions out of 23 attempts for 162 passing yards and 1 touchdown, along with 1 carry for 3 yards. And to win a game by 3 touchdowns, when you only put up that kind of numbers on the day, it speaks volume of what you have around you. Because Dedrick Mills put up 17 carries for 106 rushing yards, along with 1 reception for 6 yards. Clark Barnes added 5 receptions for 62 receiving yards, and Dominique Rhymes had 2 receptions for 41 yards and that 1 lone touchdown pass by Vernon Adams Jr. On the day, the Stampeders had a total of 7 penalties for 60 yards, and the defense had 4 sacks with 2 fumble recoveries. For the losing team in the Elks, Cody Fajardo, 21 of 33 for 255 passing yards, no touchdowns. He did have a fumble, and he did have a turnover on downs, and added 6 carries for 44 rushing yards on the day. But between that and the fact they couldn't get the running game going with Justin Rankin, who had only 13 carries for 48 rushing yards and 5 receptions for 48 receiving yards, even though he combined for nearly 100 all-purpose yards on the day, it still wasn't enough to make this team competitive because they only put up 7 points at the end of this contest. Arkell Smith had 7 receptions for 81 receiving yards, and Curly Gittens Jr.'s 3 receptions for 46 yards round out the offense. As far as the penalties go for them, they had less in total, but more in yards as the other team. They had 6 penalties for 64 yards. Looking at the overall numbers and how this game flowed, Ryan, what's your overall thoughts on this contest between these two teams?
There's a certain element that you have played in the past, Drew, and I need you to play it. And it has the Calgary Stampeders colors on it. You know what it is. He's on mute.
I don't have it.
Well, I'll just put it this way. Bowling shoe
folder.
ugly, this game.
Oh, wait, no, I do have that one. My bad.
Oh.
I thought you meant the Dumpster Pelicans. I got that in the other folder. I gotta bring that over next week.
No. But Edmonton Elks were acting like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans. This offense to this day. Yes, they actually outgained Calgary in this game. They outgained them on at least the passing side. On the rushing side, Calgary was very effective, 125 total yards. But Edmonton had. They had 5 team. Calgary had 3 tackles for loss in this game. Defense is doing their job. 4 sacks on the game. They also held the Elks to 8 of 24 on second down and 3 giveaways for the Edmonton Elks. So this was defensive as efficient a game on the defensive side of the ball for the Edmonton Elks. They allowed no touchdowns. They allowed 7 points. Those 7 points came on 2 field goals and a single. So that's how effective they were on offense. On defense, excuse me. 4 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Held the Elks to 8 of 24 on second down. CFL.ca doesn't give me third down though. They don't give me third down stats. So I'm kind of curious to see if Edmonton went on it on third down at any time in this game, but I didn't get a chance to watch this game. I was preoccupied with other things. But I actually did tune in. Actually, no, I was watching college football. That's what I was watching NCAA college football. But I checked in during the fourth quarter, I'm like, oh, I wonder how this game is going in Calgary. And the score is 28-7, and then Edmonton's trying to score, and they unfortunately did not get in the end zone. So this was as ugly as a game as you want if you're the Edmonton Elks, because up to this point they were riding that winning streak. They put Cody Fajardo in an offense, veteran leadership, doing an effective job getting wins on the board for Edmonton, trying to keep them in the playoff hunt. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them because Calgary right now is too strong of a team. I've talked about how right now the two best teams in the CFL, it comes down to Calgary and it comes down to Saskatchewan. You could argue Saskatchewan's the best team in the league because it's based on record. But right now, Calgary is right up there because they've beaten those two losses that Saskatchewan have were to Calgary. So you have to argue that Calgary is the best team in the CFL based on the fact that they've beaten the Rough Riders twice. So Calgary putting BTA to Edmonton or BTE, Boots to Elks, in this game on the defensive side of the ball, they're showing why that they're arguably the best team in the CFL. And Edmonton's going back to the drawing board, and they're facing each other again tonight. So hopefully Edmonton will have a different result. They're hoping for a different result, but Calgary, man, they're just a strong team right now, and they are forced. They're a force to be reckoned with right now.
They most certainly are, and they're climbing their way. They're trying to make a run in the playoffs now that they've got Vernon Adams Jr. this season, and they're doing a pretty decent job, and especially spoiling the Elks, who had a pretty decent run over the past month. After starting the season out, not such great momentum. They finally started to get some over the past month or so, and they get knocked down a few pegs, especially with this type of loss against a really good team in the Stampeders. But it also kind of lets the Elks know where they're at right now in the avenues of which they need to improve on, because they still have a long ways to go before they're a formidable team like the Stampeders are. And the Stampeders are primarily formidable on their defense right now because their offense is playing pretty similar to like the Ravens of like 25 years ago, where they're relying on their defense to carry them through the games, and the offense just has to minimize mistakes.
Yep.
And Vernon Adams Jr. is one of the best as far as veteran leadership when he's on, which he's been on quite a bit this season when he hasn't been getting banged up. But when he's on, he's really good at making smart decisions and protecting the football. So I have high hopes for them, at least for the remainder of the regular season. The real challenge will be once we get to playoffs, and we'll see how that looks by the time we get to the end of this season. That pretty much does it for the Week 13 games, as we also did cover the first of those 4 games last week. But we've also got another CFL game that we have to review, and it actually happened last night. Let's go ahead and take it to our Friday games and look at the first action within Week 14 for the Canadian Football League. And that is between the BC Lions and the Ottawa Red Blacks. And this game right here was pretty interesting, Ryan. It ends with a 1-point score. Came down to the wire, 34-33. And when we look at how this game went about, we got to start it off with the winning team, and that being the Red Blacks, who have had their struggles in 2025. But they are able to take the win against another team that's been struggling this year, and they get the win at home in Ottawa, as Dustin Crum, who's 24 of 32 on passing for the day, had 301 yards as well in the air with 1 passing touchdown. He made some big contributions on the ground, though, with 8 carries for 69 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, along with William Stanback, who had 9 carries for 27 rushing yards and 2 receptions for 21 receiving yards. Not big numbers by someone who is their big-time back, but it was just enough to help establish the flow of the offense. Khalil Pimpleton had 7 receptions for 95 receiving yards, and Justin Hardy had 4 receptions for 64 yards as well. The Red Blacks defense had 1 sack on the day and 2 interceptions, one by Lucas Cormier and the other by Mark Milton. Red Blacks' total penalties were 5 for 65 yards, but their offense in the red zone was perfect on the day. 4 out of 4 in red zone attempts. Absolutely great work by that offense overall. Nathan Rourke for the BC Lions had 22 completions out of 32 attempts for 284 passing yards, had a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He also had 4 carries for 29 rushing yards. And James Butler had 18 carries, establishing the flow of the offense, where that's why they were so close in this game, I believe. 18 carries for 77 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, along with 1 reception for 12 receiving yards. Keon Hatcher had 5 receptions for 64 receiving yards, and Justin McInnes' 7 receptions for 148 yards and 1 receiving touchdown rounded out their offense. The Lions' total penalties, the second worst in the league this week, 9 for 105 yards. Sean White added 4 completed field goals out of 4 attempts for 15 total points. The first game in week 14 being on Friday night. What are your overall thoughts looking back on this game last night and how close it was at the end there, Ryan?
Drew, what have I been saying this what did I say in the first two segments? In the first segment, the two Labor Day weekend games.
Wrong
no,
one.
Not quite. No lead is safe.
No lead is safe. I have a total. Today, my bad.
And a dumpster pelican. That's the side.
Yes.
But I say
the number 1 rank, though. I'll settle for 3rd.
I say this in a very, I say it lovingly. I say that. Be a dumpster pelican. No, the
fingers are waving in the background, Ryan McCarthy.
I know what they are. They're telling me I'm number 1.
Yes.
But it's not the index or the ring or the pinky. It is the one that you show. I can't repeat the lyrics because it's a family show. But
I'm trying to be politically correct.
Family show.
Yes.
At the end of the third quarter, BC had a 27-16 lead over these Red Blacks. And the Red Blacks wound up scoring three touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Dustin Crum, I have to think, if Ottawa gets on a roll, there's going to be some quarterback controversy in Ottawa because Dustin Crum, we talked, Drew Brown is the established starter. He was the starter at the beginning of the season. And we know what Ottawa can do with him in the lineup. We saw about 3 weeks ago in Toronto when they were down 22-1 at the end of the first quarter. Again, no lead safe. No lead is safe in the CFL. We saw what he could do, and he was throwing the ball all around, and they wound up winning that game in Toronto. This time around, they got Dustin Crum in because Drew Brown is hurt once again. And he's not only doing it with his feet, he's not only doing it with his arm, Dustin Crum is. And hey, solid day, 24-32, 301 yards and a touchdown. But he also does it with his legs. 8 carries, 69 yards, real nice, Clark, and 2 scores of his own. So if Ottawa gets on a roll, right now they're 4-8. They're neck and neck with Toronto for that third playoff spot in the East. This was an important game for BC to win because it would have kept them in step for third place in the West. Right now, they're currently the crossover team to go to the East if the season were to end today. BC blew this game. Another blown lead. This is a blown lead, again, for a BC team that should win more games. But their defense, for what it's worth, They had 4 sacks if I'm looking at the stats correctly. If I look at the team stats, they had 4 sacks. They sacked Dustin Crum 4 times. But I don't know what it is with their secondary and their secondary is not great. Secondary is not great. They're not bringing up passes. It's not a great look for BC, and Dustin Crum led them on a game-winning drive. Eugene Lewis with the game-winning touchdown with about 35 seconds left in the game, and then Nathan Rourke. Nathan Rourke is good. We've sung his praises many a time on this program, but 2 interceptions in this game, including one that the last one, the last play of the game that sealed the deal for the Red Blacks to get this victory. And it was very important for the Red Blacks to get this victory because, again, they got to keep in step with in the playoff run, because right now it's BC traveling to Montreal for that playoff game in the East semifinal. So if you're Ottawa, you got to wonder, all right, we're winning this game next week. We're at BC. We got to win that game. And if they win that game, they're even. They're even in the standings in terms of points for the crossover. And it's Ottawa going to the playoffs. So Ottawa's schedule looks like this for the next couple of weeks. They're at BC, home against Winnipeg, bye week, home against Saskatchewan, at Montreal, back home against Montreal, at Hamilton, then the playoffs begin. So if they win 4 of those games, they find themselves in a playoff spot right now. But they have to win at least 4 of those games in order to keep pace in the playoff if they want to be a part of the playoff conversation. But congratulations to the Red Blacks. Thriller of a game, coming back from 11 down and winning this game pretty much at the death. And they stay in pace for the playoffs.
They most certainly do. And, another team of the Lions who have had their roller coaster of a season, they have got to get things back in check real fast because it's not looking good for the Lions right now. It really is not.
No. This is they're a better team than what they should be, than what their record reflects. But as the great Bill Parcells has said before in the past, your record is who you are. And right now, BC, for as talented as a team as they are, you're 5-7. And they're still in the playoff spot as a crossover, but they're 5-7. They should not be 5-7. This is too talented of a team in BC to be 5-7. And yet, here they are.
They are who we thought they were.
Want to crown their beat? Crown them. R.I.P. Dennis Green.
Speaking of great one-liners, we got Sick Diggy with some more great things here in the chat. Says, when it comes to the Battle of Alberta, how often does the game live up to the hype? It's a good question for you, Ryan McCarthy.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Last year, Edmonton swept Calgary. But this year it seems to be that Calgary is the better team. So, but we'll see. Saturday, we've got a game coming up tonight in about 2 hours and 28 minutes. So we'll find out if it's real. But right now, the Elks have been on a kind of a downswing since 2019. There are some signs that they could be better, that they're going to be a better team. But I think this year, not so much the game living up to the hype, but I think next year it will. I think we'll start to see that rivalry start to really come back. I mean, if you want to talk about the Battle of Alberta, I mean, Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers in the NHL, that's a Battle of Alberta right there. But in terms of the CFL, I think it's kind of on a level right now. But I think next year you'll start to get the game will live up to the hype once again.
And we shall see how it lives up to said hype. Sick Diggy also says, having more offensive yardage than the other team means nothing if one can't finish one of the offensive drives with the points on the scoreboard.
Nothing more to be said.
Yep. Very straightforward. The Red Blacks dug deep and didn't give up in this game. The Lions got sloppy. Third quarter, the Lions defense fell half asleep in the fourth. Absolutely. You were right with that.
Yep.
And he said got sloppy after the third quarter. Yes, we're picking up right through throwing down.
That's the one thing about Bob Dice and his coaching abilities for the Ottawa Red Blacks. His teams don't give up.
Mm-mm. They most certainly do not. They are in the fight and hanging tough each and every play. And with that being said, that does it for our CFL coverage. It's time to take it on back into the NFL coverage. And for that, we got to go backwards a little bit. We went through last night's Friday night game for the CFL. We got to go back an extra day to Thursday night, talk about the spit game. Oh, yeah, Ryan McCarthy. I got it right here. The spit game right here in our face. I even got the spit picture, the spit image of Jalen Carter right here. What an absolute dumpster Pelican. To do what he did and spit in the face of Dak Prescott, regardless of whatever his excuse was he thought there was some spitting beforehand, which is why he had to retaliate. He hadn't even gotten to the first play of the game. This was right after the ensuing kickoff to start the game. You have an Eagles player go down, injured, coming back from an injury where he was out all last season for sustaining an injury during a game last year. And now we have this because Thursday Night Football, we have the Cowboys and the Eagles, the first NFL game of the season. Jalen Hurts, 19-23 on the day, 152 passing yards, 14 carries for 62 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, along with Saquon Barkley, who had 18 carries for 60 yards and a rushing touchdown. He had 4 receptions for 24 yards as well. Former Commander, as I'm wearing this hoodie today for the Commanders, Jahan Dotson, 3 receptions for 59 receiving yards, and Dallas Goedert had 7 receptions for 44 yards, round out the receiving core for this offense. The Eagles' total penalties on the day, 9 for 110 yards. There may be another team that leads the pack in that at the end of week 1 once we have all the games finished tomorrow and Monday, but Jake Elliott was the highlight for special teams. He had 1 field goal out of 1 attempt. It was 58 yards, the longest field goal of the day, especially when you consider going against Brandon Aubrey, who can kick 60-plus yard bombs like it's nothing. Dak Prescott, 21-34 on the day for 188 passing yards, 1 carry for 3 yards on the ground, along with Javonte Williams, who had 15 carries for 54 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He did have 2 receptions for 10 yards as well. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions for 110 receiving yards, and the newly acquired George Pickens, 3 receptions for 30 yards, round out their receiving core for Dallas. Cowboys had less penalties than the winning team, as they only had 4 for 42 yards. Looking at this Thursday night football contest, Eagles escaped with a 24-20 victory after the game was suspended due to lightning for a little bit. Do you think that the game suspension killed any momentum that Dallas had, or were they doomed before the suspension took place?
I think it killed momentum for the Eagles to go up by a greater amount of points.
Yeah,
because I watched the first half. I only watched the first half of the game because as you know, Drew, I like to get up early in the morning and get myself a workout in before the workday begins. So, whew. But no, I watched the first half, and this was basically all the scoring was in the first half. 41 combined points in the first half. It was back and forth. It was a back and forth affair. It was a typical NFC East slugfest, which I like to see. But as one of our friends in a no credentials required Discord chat like to say, she said that the Cowboys blinked first when they kicked that field goal after both teams exchanged touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, that winning touchdown. And then after that fumble by I'm trying to remember his name, Miles Sanders. After that fumble by Miles Sanders inside the Eagles 20, Dallas was driving to score. They were looking to go ahead in that game, and Miles Sanders, there's a reason why the Philadelphia Eagles didn't keep him for very long after it was drafted by him, because he's a case of the chronic fumbleitis, and that fumble turned the direction of the game. Philly scores a field goal. Then we have that lightning delay for 45 minutes. Philadelphia could have gone up by much more, but I think it kind of put the brakes on whatever offense they had left. But their defense, they held up their end of the bargain. They didn't allow the Cowboys to score in that second half at all. I mean, part of it was the fumble from Sanders. You could argue the drops by CeeDee Lamb very late in the game on the final drive that had a factor. But this was a pretty solid effort. First half was fun to watch. Second half, But I gotta say, the NFL, these late starts gotta stop, especially on a weeknight. You can't have a game at 8:20 start on a Thursday night when people gotta go to work the next day, when kids gotta go to school the next day, and when a lightning delay delays the game for 45 minutes. That adds on to the total time of game. So, these late starts, they got to stop. We got to push them up an hour at least an hour, because it's still prime time. Prime time is still from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock. You're still in prime time if you start the game at 7:20. So I just hate those late starts because again, people got to work, kids got to go to school, and it's just a longer game. So also got to mention about Jalen Carter's spitting thing. Regardless of the fact that if Dak Prescott did indeed spit first or make the act of spitting first, you don't retaliate, because just like in hockey, the referee always catches the retaliation. Always catch the retaliation. So, we talked about this on No Credentials Required earlier today. Ding. So check that out if you want to. But yeah, this was Philly's game. Congratulations to them. They win week 1. And Dallas, we give Jarrell all sorts of crap about his decisions. Kenny Clark had a decent game. He was effective in helping the Cowboys stop the run, and gotta give him credit, because Saquon Barkley, actually Jalen Hurts was the leading rusher for the Eagles in this game with 62 yards, and they held Saquon Barkley in check, which is, gotta give them some respect for that. But in the meantime, back to the drawing board for the Cowboys. Eagles, you both got 7 days. It's actually 10 days to figure out before the next game.
They most certainly do. And to contain Saquon, like you said, I mean, he did have 18 carries, so he still kind of helped establish the flow, and kind of a nasty game towards the end after the weather kind of slowed the momentum down, like you said, from keeping the Eagles from scoring more. They're lucky, to be honest. There was concern when Jalen Carter was of course ejected, that was going to affect their defense to where they were going to give up more points. And in that first drive, you could tell when Dallas went down and marched down and scored right after he was ejected, it looked like the wind was taken out of the sails from the Eagles defense.
Yep.
However, after that initial drive, yes, they still gave up, 20 points, but they were able to recover pretty well and come together and still contain the Cowboys. They only gave up 13 points for the remainder of the game, after that touchdown to start the game. So had it been, for not having the type of defense they have, where they have several different key players that can come together and gel and fill gaps, like with Jalen Carter being gone, this should be a sign to Jalen that he needs to tighten up, because the Eagles are capable of winning without him. Like they literally proved that against the Cowboys, a tough divisional matchup that, the Cowboys have their question marks because of the way they're ran in the front office, but they still have a talented squad. And if they got hot, and if the remaining teams in the division in the East got cold, they could make a run and win the NFC East. But you would have to get through this team right here. And the Cowboys are in trouble because they proved that they can't get it done even when their best player on defense, what it appears, is knocked out. Because they were literally saying in the broadcast, 80% of what they were going to talk about during when the defense is on the field is now gone. So with all that being said, I do anticipate Carter to get some type of fine. I'm guessing it's probably going to be 5 figures, like $10,000, $15,000, because this happened on primetime. Like this happened where everybody can see it. It wasn't like what you were talking about with, they should start the game a little bit earlier. But when this incident happened, is when kids are still awake. It's when people are still watching the game. It was just after the kickoff, for crying out loud. Literally, it's 8-something o'clock. You just had the kickoff, and you got your players all, in an altercation, and your best defensive player is literally in the face of your leader of your quarterback in the Cowboys, and he's spitting on him because of some misunderstanding. Regardless if it's a misunderstanding or not, you still did it on primetime TV, and it could have cost you the game. He should be lucky, counting his lucky stars, this didn't cost him the game, because had the score been 24-20 Dallas, that's all we'd be hearing about the past 2 days, was the fact that they lost because Jalen Carter got ejected before the first actual legitimate snap of the game.
Yeah, and this was while his teammate, Jalen Carter's teammate, was being taken off the field because it looked like a catastrophic knee injury 6 seconds into the game. So yeah, you gotta be more disciplined than that. There's a lot of teams that passed on Jalen Carter in the draft because of those discipline problems on the field. So this was an example of that. And that's something you can't do. And I know he was apologetic after the game. He said it's a big mistake, but NFL is going to discipline him. He'll probably get a 1 or 2 game suspension, get fined a whole bunch of money coming out of his pocket. But yeah, you can't do that, especially it's on national television and in a primetime game. Can't do that. It's a shame this is the only thing we're really talking about in this game, because we had some pretty good performances here. Gotta say it.
You're absolutely correct there, sir. And it's just frustrating to see things like that, because we're talking about younger generations being exposed to stuff that is not something that they should be getting exposed to in primetime TV. Sick Diggy says Jalen Carter was standing within hearing distance of the Cowboys huddle and claimed that Dak Prescott spat in his general direction. Carter took it from there in front of the referee. Also, check the weather forecast before the game.
Well, I know it was raining between the time kickoff happened and when the time the lightning came. So, I mean, they always have their eye on the weather. They're always going to have their eye on the weather. It's just that lightning was in the area. They didn't want to take any chances, and they did what they did. So, hey, safety first.
Yeah, I don't blame him, because, I mean, I was telling somebody at work, because I was at work when the game was on, there's metal screws in the helmet, holding stuff together. So there's metal in there. You can get electrocuted. They need to get off the field. So definitely great on the NFL for making that call, or in the referees for suspending the game. Cowboys definitely showed up. They still need help in front on the defense. But Kenny, hey, they're who they got in that trade for Parsons did step up in this game. He did make some plays, but he needs help around him though on that defensive line.
I wonder if it would have made a difference if they had a very good defensive player, especially on the edge in this game. I wonder.
We'll be wondering that for quite some time there, sir, because it's a big question. But I will say that even though they definitely are missing him at the edge, Clark is going to help out that defensive line.
He is.
It's that spot. And that's a spot that they really needed help at. So even though you don't want to lose who you gave up to get him, you still have help there. And it's looking pretty good for them in the future.
Yep.
At least for that. If they can make some good moves around and find another Micah Parsons, I don't think they're going to do that. But, I mean, Jarrell is at the helm. Who knows? The Cowboys' offensive line, some chumps, though, say my petty brain. I can hear him say that, too. Back in the day, Carter would have gotten stomped out back 10 to 15 years ago by the quarterback's offensive line.
Yep, but it's a different era. And I will say this, I gotta say that Carter's ejection definitely changed the offensive line's direction of game, because he usually gets double teamed. And when a player like that gets taken out of the game, whether it's by injury or ejection or some other circumstance, it changes their game plan. And they allowed no sacks in this game. For Pittsburgh, for Philadelphia, they have a really good pass rush, and for Carter to get taken out and not and the Cowboys not allow any sacks, it's pretty effective. So I got to give them credit there.
Absolutely. And with that, Sick also says Carter needs to get his act together. This is not the first time. I mean, he was reckless in college, nearly cost him his career. He was drafted later because of it, but he's lucky he's in the NFL based on what he was involved with at that time. I'm not going to repeat it because we are on time restraints today. But with that, everybody who's been sticking around the game, you know what I'm talking about. And Corey agrees with Sick. He's going to mess up his next contract with this foolishness. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because his talent, he could be resetting the market with this contract, but not with this behavior and with other things he's done in the past as well. And regarding an investment in a retractable roof by certain teams, which is why the Commanders will be one of those teams.
I mentioned that. I mentioned that in our recording of No Credentials Required. Now available on podcast and on Belly Up Sports YouTube. Ding,
bing. Nice. So I'm talking about. Make sure you go back and check it out because him and Dustin bring great content each and every week, which I still need to go back and check out the most latest one because I have not had a chance to with everything this week and trying to get this together. It was a challenge. But once we are done with this, I got until tomorrow night's episode 100 to get caught up on some content that I missed from the past few days. That being said, we only got one more game to recap before we go into our favorite times, which are the Grand Champ and the Snowflake of the Week moments. We got a Friday night football game that we have to go back and look at. It was in Brazil. And that game was between... Oh, no! I clicked the wrong one. Let's try this again. Your daily dose of shenanigans, all right? Here's the right one.
There it is.
Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Should be in San Diego.
Of San Diego. Yes, that's what I was originally going to say. The Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego. Because the Los Angeles Chargers win this game 27-21, a game that looks like the tide shifted as a result of another injury, and that being of Xavier Worthy, who got injured on the third snap of the game. Definitely made an impact for this team right here because you had your number one option being Hollywood Brown after that. Okay, so that's a considerable downgrade when you look at what Xavier Worthy is dubbed as, because with Rashee Rice being, with his suspension and stuff, you've got your number one target that's now out. Okay. And it's only time will tell for how long, especially with it being a dislocated shoulder. But with this game right here, Justin Herbert was nearly perfect. 25 of 34, 318 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, along with 7 carries for 32 rushing yards. Omarion Hampton, 15 carries for 48 rushing yards, along with 2 receptions for 13 receiving yards. Quentin Johnston had 5 receptions for 79 rushing yards, 79 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Keenan Allen had 7 receptions for 68 receiving yards and a touchdown. The Chargers' total penalties for the day were 6 for 49 yards. However, their time of possession, they had 32 minutes and 44 seconds of controlled time within the offense. Patrick Mahomes struggled on the other side, having 15 incompletions as he went 24 of 39 on the day, 258 passing yards, and a touchdown, along with 6 carries for 57 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Excuse me. Hollywood Brown had 10 receptions for 99 receiving yards, which is a highlight day for him for the first of quite some time, as he became the number one, option once Worthy went down. Travis Kelce did have a receiving touchdown in this game, but only had 2 receptions for 47 receiving yards. The Chiefs' total penalties were 10 for 71 yards, and their highlight literally came from their field goal kicker. 3 completed field goals out of 3 attempts for 9 points, tallying up almost half of what the team put up on the day. Looking at this Friday night contest, it was an international one. What are your overall thoughts when looking back on this contest?
this was a fun game to watch. This was one of those games where you're just like, all right, I love football. This is a great game. And on Tuesday we had our NFL preview. I made a bold prediction, and we've chopped it up. It's now we put both conference previews, chopped it up and put it up on the No Credentials Required YouTube page. Ding! So you want to check it out after Total Football Talk. But I'll give a sneak preview as to who my AFC West division winner was going to be: the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them winning the AFC West. Part of the reason why is because I think this defense, they have a really good defense. They held the Chiefs in check in this game, even without Xavier Worthy. Injuries are tough. Injuries are even tougher when it's inflicted by your own teammate, because he collided with Travis Kelce on a crossing pattern, and you got to be more careful. There were some jokes about how if Xavier Worthy had said something about Taylor Swift's music, and that's why he got knocked out of the game. But I'm going to heap some praise onto Justin Herbert right here, because I said this morning on No Credentials Required, ding, that he tends to wilt in the limelight. He's done it in the playoffs. He had a really horrible playoff game against Houston last year, where I think the stat was he threw 4 interceptions all season last season in the regular season, and he threw 4 interceptions in that wild card game against Houston. So it's good to see him bounce back and start that bounce back in this game against a very tough Kansas City Chiefs defense. And he didn't do it with just his arm. 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, ain't nothing to sniff at. It's a day in the office for Justin Herbert. But also 32 rushing yards, including a 19-yard carry on 4th and 14 with less than 2 minutes left in the game to basically seal a deal for the Chargers. And Justin Herbert, man, he's gonna if he continues this momentum and becomes a quarterback everybody knows he can be, I think the Chargers are going to turn some heads this year. And like I said, I've got them winning the AFC West this year. And I think Justin Herbert's going to be a big part of that. Their defense is going to be a big part of it. And I think Omarion Hampton's going to be a big part of it. And I made another bold prediction. I have him pegged as my offensive player of the year in the AFC, not Travis Hunter. As much as I want to give all love and praise to Travis Hunter, he seems like he seems like he's going to be a very talented dude, but he's also a heck of a guy off the field. Like he's just like the nicest dude off the field possible. I don't know if you get a chance to read the story about his interaction with an older lady on a plane. Then she figures out who he is and she buys his jersey. It's a really sweet story. But I've got Omarion Hampton. You know, he had put in some effort with 61 total yards from scrimmage between rushing and receiving. So, and Quentin Johnson's turning into Justin Herbert's number 1 target. But Justin Herbert not only he's got 3 good targets on this team in Johnston, Ladd McConkey, and the reunion with Keenan Allen. Nice to have him back in the lineup. He had a nice game himself, going back getting back in that rejuvenation machine. As for the Chiefs, they are who they are. I think their defense is going to have to step it up more often this year. I said it on the Tuesday NFL preview, and 10 penalties, very uncharacteristic for this Chiefs team. And they had their mistakes in the first half. Only scored 6 points in the first half. They wound up scoring 15 in the second half and making it a game. And for a while, it didn't look like it was going to be a game. But all credit to the Chiefs for coming back, and Hollywood Brown having some huge plays, especially in the fourth quarter when they made it a game again. So, but having Xavier Worthy exit the game 3 plays in on your offensive series, that made a huge difference for the Kansas City Chiefs, because it kind of slowed the game down for them, because they like to go fast. And also not having Shee Rice for 6 games, and especially in this game, it made a difference. So, but congratulations to the Chargers. I see bright days ahead for them, and this game is just the start for them.
I like that. In your pick with the Chargers, it's looking like a pretty good one, considering how the Chiefs looked. in this contest, yes, it was an international game. It wasn't like it was in the States. Multiple things could have played a factor. Yes, somebody not liking Taylor Swift's music. No, I doubt it. But that could have played a factor. Who knows? But like you said, but with that being said, this game, was one of those coming out parties for Herbert in the Harbaugh era, because they had some flashes last year, but this was your first real test that you overcame. You snapped a 7-game losing streak by winning this game against the Chiefs. So with that, very, very, very big on the Chargers to get this one. Very, very big win for them. Big win for Harbaugh in his second year now back in the NFL as a head coach. Big win for Herbert for those who were doubting him leading up to, Staley leaving and Harbaugh coming in. I'm happy for the Chargers to see that. And of course, everybody who's fans of the NFL are going to be happy to see a team not on top other than the Chiefs at some point in this year, because even though we have a long season to go, if this is a vision for how things are going to go for the Chiefs, we will finally not see them in the Super Bowl for the first time in quite some time this year. Not saying it's going to be the Chargers, but if the Chargers can go and do this, any other team can, because now you see what you got to do to beat the Chiefs on paper. So study this tape from what the Chargers did against them, and you have your answers right here and now. The 6 says, and given that the name was Arena Corinthians, it's a good thing neither team wore green.
Yeah, he continues it in his subsequent comments about giving us an education about rivalries and soccer and whatnot. So
yes, sick. Very great points with that. And keep the heat coming. We'll acknowledge them a little bit more here in a few. We're going to take our one and only commercial break for Total Football Talk Extra. But when we come back, we have the grand champ, the snowflake of the week as always, and the 2-minute drill for the remaining games in week 14 for the Canadian Football League. We'll see you here in a few minutes.
Total Football Talk Extra will return right after this. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps,
as they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Hey, what's good, everybody? This is your boy Corey, host of The Grind, where we talk about all things WWE. You can catch The Grind every single Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sertoba Media. If you're not following Sertoba Media, then what are you doing? Like, share, subscribe. There are many different things that we have available on Sertoba Media for your viewing pleasure. And what else you got to do on a Saturday afternoon? Come spend some time with me. Come spend some time with my colleagues on this platform. Help us be able to bring everything that you all want to see. Matter of fact, you know what? If you ain't did it yet, I got something for you. Stay true to what you do. Stay true to why you do. And always stay true to you.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Do you like talking sports? Do you like entertainment? Do you like the occasional series of heated discussions?
Are you in and out, Drew?
With that said,
Drew, I'm hearing a bunch of stuff in your mind. I know you know this team very well. Are you in and out, my friend?
Then you must see this. Drew Willingham versus random panelists. Who wins? You decide on the In or Out Sports Debate. Live whenever the we feel like it. Eastern Standard Time. Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Total Football Talk Extra.
The Extra is back with episode 26 of Total Football Talk with the X. We have discussed what we've seen so far in Canadian football and NFL action between the past two nights. As last night, the Chargers snapped 7-game losing streak with win in Brazil against the Chiefs. I'm Drew Willingham, along with the man, myth, and legend, Ryan McCarthy on Extra. But we have to now go to one of our favorite parts of the week, and that is the Grand Champ of the Week. My dogs at? Got one right there. Mr. McCarthy is here.
Right there.
And right there. As Ryan McCarthy is here for the Grand Champ of the Week, we got to discuss with this Grand Champ of the Week, who is your selection for that pick there, sir?
Well, I had to eat my words because a few weeks ago, actually a few months ago, when the season started, I said that Nick Arbuckle wasn't the guy in Toronto. I thought Chad Kelly was the guy going to be back in town, and he was going to be the guy to carry the team forward for the Toronto Argonauts. But I got to eat my words. Nick Arbuckle, you have handed me my lunch, sir, and you proved it in this game. And that's why you are my Grand Champ of the Week. In his game against the Ticats, 33 of 40, 352 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no turnovers whatsoever. And he faced a ferocious, no pun intended, Tiger Cats defense pass rush. Was sacked 4 times, but he got back up and he kept slinging that rock, kept slinging it. And he led the Argonauts from a multi-score deficit to get them up ahead, bring them ahead in this game late in the fourth quarter. And then again, we saw Bully Levi Mitchell get a huge lead the Ticats back, and then Nick Arbuckle got that catch and toss and catch to Brissett that led them down to the 4-yard line, kicked a field goal, and a huge win for Toronto, because I had this team pretty much dead to rights a few weeks ago when they lost and they went to the 2-8. They've won 2 in a row. Nick Arbuckle, if he continues his pace that he's on for passing yards, he could wind up with over 6,000 passing yards by the end of this season. He is
holy.
Yeah. I think he's got over 2,000 yards in the past 4 weeks alone, like 2,100 yards. So he's got the arm. He's been handing me my lunch lately with his performances, and this one was just another one in the old belt buckle for him. So Nick Arbuckle, congratulations to you. You are my Grand Champ of the Week.
And that was a great pick, as I had said earlier. I'd picked him last week for a reason, and with his numbers this week, it definitely qualified him to be a Grand Champ of the Week, and that's why he qualified in your selection for that. And now it's time for my pick for the Grand Champ of the Week, and I'm going with AJ Ouellette of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. 18 carries for 89 rushing yards on the day, along with 4.9 yards per carry on average. He had a rushing touchdown. He had 1 reception for 2 yards on the day. Yes, he didn't have stellar numbers receiving-wise, but he was the leading back for this team, that even though Mario Anderson had 2 touchdowns on only, 3 carries, AJ Ouellette stole the show with the amount of carries that he had and establishing the flow of the offense. It all ran through him on this day because the quarterback wasn't at his best stuff on this day. but AJ still remains hot and is a big reason why the Saskatchewan Roughriders are 9-2 right now, because the flow of that offense has literally ran through the running game. And except for their team that they have had their kryptonite against, that we've talked about on Total Football Talk with their 2 losses to the same team. But I digress with that right now because this is a good moment with the Grand Champ of the Week. I'm going to say that right here and now, if the Saskatchewan Roughriders make it to the Grey Cup this year, it's because of what this man is doing to establish the flow on offense. Yes, their defense is great, and they're going to need them to remain where they're at, if not better, in order to get to the Grey Cup. But the only way to make that defense and what they've done worthwhile is to continue to establish the flow on offense, and it all starts with the running game. AJ Olette, he's my pick for Grand Champ of the Week. I don't care if you don't like it, you should like it, because that long, flowing hair with AJ Olette and somebody like myself who knows a thing or two about the long hair here, you got to give a shout out to that guy right here, AJ Olette, and the reason why he is my pick for Grand Champ of the Week.
I know nothing about long hair. My beard game's on point as always, though.
You and I both there, sir. The struggle remains.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
For long hair. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and take it on into our next favorite part of the week, and that is the Snowflake of the Week.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Oh, yeah, it's time to get chilly. Talk about the Snowflake of the Week. Ryan, who is your worst athlete or combined unit of the week?
My worst combined unit of the week is the Hamilton Tiger Cats secondary. Surrendering a multi-score lead late, not knocking the ball down one of the last passes of the game, which winds up in the hands of Jacoby Brissett, who takes it almost the length of the field to score a touchdown, but winds up out of bounds, but still at the death with 1 second left. Game-winning field goal. And instead of a W, getting your 2 points and keeping the foot on the neck of the lead in the East Division, you wind up getting the big ol' fat stinking and that's my Snowflake of the week.
Very great choice, and I hope that I made you proud with the assist right there with the
Thank
big
you
old.
very much.
I don't stinking it.
And I'm Drew. I got to bounce. I got some company coming over. I got to get ready for tonight. Going to the comedy show tonight up in Saratoga. So I'm gonna take my leave. Thank you for letting me be on the part of the program of Total Football Talk Extra.
I will see you next Friday, regular time, for the next edition. Thank you again, sir. Enjoy your night.
Will do. Thank you.